In this series of webinars, we will explore artificial intelligence technology and its combination with human potential. We will try to identify ways of harnessing AI capabilities in software testing and explore various aspects of AI, including generative AI, biases, the role of AI in software testing, and many more. So today's guest is Vice President of ISTQB, President of CFTL, the French ISTQB board, and Vice President of PES Testware SAS, Olivier Denoo with us. Hello, Olivier, and
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining the session today.
You're welcome. Good afternoon, everyone.
First of all, I want to congratulate you with the event that you just recently successfully
thank you.
run. I saw the posts that you did in LinkedIn feed, and you gathered around 1,300 people in one place. Can you tell us more about it?
Absolutely. That is the biggest one in Europe for sure, probably in the world as well. So I'm very, very proud about this conference. We had about 250 tutorial delivered the day before. So that's a 2 days conference. Yeah.
Wow, that's really exciting. And what is the main topic was there? What did you focus on?
Oh, basically we had a very well, we had loads of topics on the program. There was AI topics for sure. There were some topics about green IT and sustainability. There were topics about agility and teaming. Yeah, so that was a big spectrum, let's say, of today's concerns and preoccupation in the quality and testing business, definitely.
Yes, sounds really exciting. I would love to join it next time. Let's see. So before we jump into the presentation, I would like to mention the way we are going to structure our discussion today. So just right after the presentation, we are going to have Q&A session, and together with Yosef, we have prepared for you, Olivier, a few questions to discuss. And everyone who are listening us on LinkedIn platform right now, please don't hesitate to ask questions via LinkedIn chat, and we will try to cover them today. We have also collected a few questions before the sessions, so we will also try to address them today. Without further ado, Olivier, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So let me share my screen now. Okay, this one. Can you see it?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
So let's go. Now that you know me, we are going to talk about artificial intelligence today and basically biases. So let's go straight to the topic. Any of you have watched, TV shows, movies about, police people with hostages, bank robbery, these kind of things, or war series or war movies, right? I guess that we all did that. And I'm just trying to get your imagination and your memory at work now. How many of them can you recall? Let's say a percentage. What sort of percentage? How many of them do you recall that have been solved by just a nice negotiation, a nice talk, and no big violence, no big actions, no big number of people killed, and so on and so forth? Is it in the range of 10%? Lower? 3% maybe? Even less, right? Why am I asking this question? Because very recently, Department of Defense in the US decided to run an experiment based upon the artificial intelligence, the software that were present there, and basically they were targeting the big ones, so things like ChatGPT or BART, now called Gemini, or these kind of big LLM systems, and they just submitted a couple of scenarios there where it started from just, kind of small talk, slight offense, something like that, I don't like you, something you like, to a real war case where, I don't know, some country throw missiles at another one, a friendly country or directly on your territory. And the name of the game was to find the best way for the AI to solve the conflict. And strange enough, even if it was just a very small offense, you know, these kind of, you know, political muscle when people have to show their power and so on and so forth, but with not leading to any sort of violence, not leading to any sort of conflict. In the vast majority of the cases, if not all of the cases, AI responded with a big escalation coming to a war situation. Of course, when you think about it, it's not really surprising. And the reason why it is not surprising is that the AI are fed with data. And the data come from Hollywood industry, come from the movie and so on and so forth. And when you recall about all these series, movies and so on and so forth, you just realize that because very few of them are linked to, you know, just keeping your cold blood, having a nice negotiation and trying to solve the problem with the less casualty possible, then you realize, of course, that the AI are trained de facto to produce a war in the end of the game. Okay, by the way, this is nothing new because this is also something that has been put in the years in the 80s that was called a war game, basically speaking. And it came a little bit to the same sort of situation where the human being had to, you know, find a way to break it down. Okay. This is typically a kind of bias that you can find within the AI system today. And what is a bias? Okay, I leave you with the very long definition here, but basically speaking, this is a way where a computer system creates some kind of unfair outcomes, such as privileging one category over another in different ways. So basically speaking, the AI doesn't treat you right. And well, this comes to the very complex definition about algorithmic bias and so on and so forth, but we will come to that a little bit later. Okay, but bias is something that is treating people unfair, depending on their gender, depending on their skin color, depending on their sexual preference, depending on their religion, depending on their, yeah, whatever, okay? But why do we have biases in the system? Do we just introduce these biases consciously or unconsciously? So we need to think a little bit how the AI, and here I'm going to concentrate on the big LLM models, so things like ChatGPT from OpenAI, for instance, or BART, or Gemini, or well, these, well, Mistral from France, well, whatever. These kind of big LLM systems, these kind of big AIs. And basically speaking, you have loads of opportunities to introduce biases in the system. So how do they work, actually? Well, first of all, the first step in this system are based on requirements and problems. An AI system is designed to solve a certain problem, is there to serve a certain goal, to fulfill a certain objective, right? And of course, you can perfectly imagine that if this objective is put wrong in the origin, because it's incomplete, because it's ambiguous, because it's not well thought, because people don't think about consequences after, well, of course, the system will go wrong. I can give you two examples of these requirements or problems that went wrong in the very beginning. One is very famous in the AI game that is called Tai, and Tai is a chatbot. You know, these little kind of robots that you meet from time to time when you go to a service over the web, let's say a bank, or you want to buy something, and you have this little window popping up and saying, "Hey, I'm your virtual assistant, and I just want to help you doing whatever you want to do." Okay. And yeah, a couple of years ago, Microsoft decided to build one of these chatbots, and the name of the game was to learn about the way humans behave. So this is better interacting with humans. That was basically the objective. And it was so vague and it was so wrong that after 16 hours, Tai was completely destroyed. So the story was that Tai was supposed to interact with the Twitter sphere. Today we call that X. Thank you, Elon Musk. But before it was called Twitter, and Tai was there to, you know, have some kind of conversation with human beings over Twitter. And people suddenly realized and quickly realized that Tai was a robot, and they decided to have fun with the robot. So they started the conversation in such a way that the robot, Tai, thought that the humans were totally different or were not, well, actually behaving different than most of us do. Actually, they were trolling the poor AI. And after 16 hours, Microsoft has to stop the initiative because in not even one day, their chatbot became a complete racist, a complete horror, a complete monster, hating women, hating black people, saying that Hitler was right, and so on and so forth. So absolutely terrible kind of interaction. And they decided to stop. When the problem is set up, then you have the core business of the artificial intelligence. And the core business of artificial intelligence is definitely data. And the data is usually separated into two categories, one that is used for training and another one that is used for, running the AI. And this training data is absolutely key, because if it does not represent the reality, if it's not represent exactly what the system is all about in all its completeness, exceptions, and so on and so forth with the right proportion, then of course the AI can perfectly go to the wrong conclusions. A famous example in there is about Microsoft and Amazon, and they both built a face recognition system. So, you know, this kind of artificial intelligence that is there in the airport, for instance, and you just put your passport on a screen. It reads your passport, a scanner reads your passport, and then you have a camera, and it recognizes you, or if it's not you, or if you do not match with the passport picture, then you're good for a control or something like that. But it's not only that. It's for authorizing access. It's about recognizing people on the street. Eventually, this one is prohibited in Europe, but it's allowed in some other countries. So that's the name of the game. And these face recognition systems that were built by Microsoft and Amazon were heavily trained with the data they had at hand. The big problem for these was that they were extremely weak in recognizing Asian faces. So basically speaking, if I put it very harsh and very wrong, for these face recognition system, whether you are Japanese, Chinese, or whether you are XYZ in China, you all look the same. That was more or less the conclusion. So the probability of recognition, the accuracy of the recognition was extremely low in these systems for Asian people. Of course, you have the same kind of face recognition systems that are built in Asian countries like China, which is very advanced in artificial intelligence as well. And of course, they don't make the same mistake, because the training data, the sample of Asian faces is much wider. So of course they can distinguish, and they find the very characteristics of the Asian faces much better. But probably they have the same sort of trouble, or maybe they have the same sort of trouble with Caucasian kind of faces, or African kind of faces, whatever. So training data is absolutely key. And if you use the wrong training data, then you can of course introduce a bias in the system. The next step in there is labeling. When you have training data, of course, the artificial intelligence is not able to distinguish per se immediately whether it is a cat or whether it is not a cat, basically speaking. So you need at a certain moment in time within the training phase to tell the AI, okay, this is a cat, this is also a cat, this is not a cat, this is a dog, or this is a person, or this is whatever else. Of course, the trouble with labeling is that because we are in that kind of society where we need to cut costs everywhere, this labeling is done outside in different countries, let's say, where the salary, the wages are a little bit lower than the European or American country. And these big AIs are are labeled, the data are labeled by let's say, cheap labor people, with all the respect I have for these people, because it is a hard work. It's definitely not easy at all. But it might be that they're not very motivated. It might be that they're not having the same culture. It might be that they have a different interpretation of the images. Well, of course, a cat is a cat everywhere, I guess, I hope. But there are some other kind of labeling that might be a little bit controversial or different, depending on where you sit in the world. And it also makes some sort of a difference and introduces some sort of a difference and definitely diverge, let's say, from the result that we want to reach. It's also another case or another potential issue is that some AIs are very sensitive to the quality of image. And we have seen in the past some adversarial techniques where it was just sufficient for a person to wear a T-shirt with a special motif, you know, kind of a picture on a sweater or a T-shirt, and then immediately gets identified as non-living body, let's say a chair or not human or whatever it is, though it is just a special motif there on his T-shirt or sweater that makes the difference, and you know, confuses completely the artificial intelligence. On the other side, we had some adversarial techniques that were used as well for image recognition. We're just changing the grain of the picture. I mean, putting some kind of what is called photographic noise. So that's kind of, yeah, changing the grain of the picture, actually getting the picture a little bit more pixelized or a little bit more noisy. Makes a total difference in recognition. And there were some cases where an ostrich, for instance, was completely confused with a truck or an airplane. So labeling is something that is also key. After labeling, you have another another step, that is the algorithm per se, and this is the way that the data is processed. Well, basically speaking, it's not really like programming. The programming is quite light compared to the big client server kind of stuff. It's not, but the number of parameters and the way to tune the model are, of course, absolutely key in there. An example here, and it's not really an AI, but it shows how things can go wrong very, very quickly, is the story of Knight Capital. And Knight Capital was doing what is called fast trading. And fast trading is just, you know, they buy position on the stock exchange and they resell the position with, of course, a certain benefit, hopefully, and they make money. The principle there is that it has to go fast. And when I'm saying fast, it's not a question of second. It's not even a question of millisecond, but it's sometimes a question of microsecond and even less sometimes. So it has to go extremely fast. Knight Capital was one of these fast trading companies, very well known in the US at the time. And at a certain moment, they had to update their system to accommodate a new kind of regulation on the stock exchange. So they had to change some parameters. For some reason, they reused variables that were already used. And when they started to roll out, it was not very well controlled. And one of the computer out of the 8 computers that were dealing with these kind of transactions was not updated at the right time, leading to a very big issue in production, because at a certain moment in time, this computer started to buy positions independent on the price and independent on the benefits. It was just like this computer was going to acquire each and every option for one company at a certain moment. Of course, people, you know, the traders detected strange movements. It was so either these guys from Knight Capital has a very, very good feeling and had some kind of information that was a gold mine, or there was something completely fishy happening there. Well, Knight Capital was informed about the problem, and when they realized, they started to do a rollback. But doing the rollback was actually making the problem 8 times worse than it usually was. And so the movement of buying extra shares and extra options just moved up exponentially, leading Knight Capital to be nearly on the verge of bankruptcy. Actually, they were a kind of bankruptcy. The stock exchange has to be suspended, at least on these transactions. They went on bankruptcy. They were bought by another company, and 2 years later, they were just wiped off the screen. So it's not really artificial intelligence, but it's very close to artificial intelligence, and it can come exactly to the same sort of issue if we don't pay attention to the right stuff. It's not in all artificial intelligence, but then you have another phase that is called reinforcement or supervision. And this is definitely the case for ChatGPT. If you look at ChatGPT, you see that they have an extra step that is definitely there to reinforce the model. Actually, what is it? It is some kind of sampling of the answer based upon the input, and checking that these answers are okay with regards to a couple of ethical criteria, yeah, whatever sort of criteria actually, because one of the problem with this reinforcement and supervision that is human action is that it's not really well documented, if documented at all. So basically speaking, we don't know what's happening there, and we don't know how far this reinforcement or supervision is going to happen and is going to basically influence the answers and influence the model. One of the reasons, of course, is that, for instance, ChatGPT or, you know, DALL-E 2 or these kind of, you know, image generating AI and so on and so forth, don't want to produce offending contents. This is the lessons learned from Tai that I just explained to you. They don't want to reproduce the story and having to just stop the activity because it's offending everyone. So if you type something like, please give me a porn image of whatever, or I don't know, torture an animal or something, well, of course, this is not ethical. You won't probably do that, but some people are crazy enough to ask for these kind of things. And definitely they need to stop that. So this is this reinforcement supervision layer. As I said, this is all right, of course, because it's somewhere, you know, protecting or making the internet a little bit better. But basically speaking, it is not documented. So I don't know how far it is better and how far it is some kind of manipulation, how far it is some kind of, you know, driving people with the same line of thoughts every time. And this is purely manipulation. That's the risk, of course. I'm not saying that this is happening. I'm saying that this is a risk. And because it's not documented, I cannot know. What we know today is that these reinforcement and supervision layers are definitely also happening in low wages countries. So, well, let me just give you an example about what I think about it. We have very, very different laws and very different perspectives in Europe, in Russia, in China, in the US on, you know, the very touchy, sensitive and sensible ethical topics like abortion, like, you know, end of life, euthanasia, and well, these kind of things. The perspective is also differing depending on your culture, depending on your history. For instance, I'm pretty sure that Chinese and Japanese who were at war at a certain moment in time don't have the same vision on the war that they had at, you know, at the time, because they have different historical perspective and they have different viewpoints. So if you inject that in the reinforcement or supervision, and you push your view on these very sensible and sensitive topics, of course, you drive the society in on a certain way, and this is, yeah, this might become manipulation. And last but not least, you have this kind of what I called auto-feed, or kind of incestuous relationship with the AI, because if you look at what has been produced in terms of images, for instance, you know, since Midjourney and DALL-E 2 and 3 now have reached, you know, the public, I would say, we generated in just a couple of years, four years-ish, we generated more artificial images, more synthetic images with these AI that we ever produced any sort of image for, let's say, the last decade or the last 3 decades. So it means that we have an enormous quantity of AI-generated images that can be used, again, to train, you know, as training data. They can be reused to feed the future versions of the AI. The trouble is that I'm fearing a little bit that after a while, I just don't have the essence of Dali or Picasso or Van Gogh or Gauguin or these kind of big painters or artists or whatever, but I just got the flavor that the AI is just about to deliver, and we some sort of dilute, you know, the artist and the art into some sort of AI kind of, you know, spam paste or something alike. And this is really a potential problem for the future. And it also comes now to the video and all kind of multimedia content, music, whatever. So this is definitely a risk. If we auto-feed the AI with the AI, then we just have some sort of closed loop, which is another kind of bias and danger that is coming. Okay, I'm talking about biases and where they can happen in the system, but of course, we need to understand that at the other end of the AI, there are people, there are real life consequences, and there are many people who already suffered from these biases in AI. I will just illustrate it a bit more right later. But basically, AI is used in our IT for long. We have AI systems in banks, in insurances for checking your solvency, to give you some sort of credit or not, to calculate your car or life insurance premium. Now we have AI that is also having a role in checking your profile for employment, for studies. There are very crucial cases that happened in the US already some years ago that are described in the book that is there below, Weapons of Mass Destruction, from Cathy O'Neill. She describes how the American study system, the education system, was just jeopardized by some, poorly thought artificial intelligence work. It also comes down to justice. I will just illustrate that with a case on the next slide. And also, to a certain extent, now it comes to love and relationship between people. Well, the other one that you see there, the second book on the left, is basically a French journalist, and she was investigating about Tinder because, well, it's less interesting to read if you can read French. It is less interesting to read basically than Weapons of Mass Destruction because it's less dense in terms of contents. But basically, that person has been extremely hurt because she went on Tinder. She was single at the time, feeling alone and so on and so forth. She went on Tinder, and then she discovered, because she's a journalist, and then she dug into the system. She discovered that she was scored. Let's say she had a scoring on Tinder, and she was willing to know her score and on what basis the score was made. Because basically, if you tell me that I'm I don't know, a 7 out of 10 or something like that, what does it mean and based upon what? Is it about wealth? Is it about face? Is it about hairdo? Is it about whatever? And yeah, so that's her story, and that's the way she had to discuss with Tinder, and then finally didn't come to a very happy end because she did not, of course, get the algorithm behind. But this is the lessons learned, actually. And this is one of the most terrible problem there in these algorithm. This is that they are protected. This is kind of, company secret. This is protected by IP and so on and so forth. So this is not openly disclosed. And there are very good reasons why it's not openly disclosed. People don't want to play with the AI and fake the system and become a fraud and make the system, of course, invalid and useless. But on the other hand, you get some sort of a scoring, you get some sort of a result, and well, basically speaking, you don't know why, and nobody really explains that to you in most cases. As a personal example, well, if you see me on the picture, I'm the kind of guy who likes to eat a little bit and have good food, good wine, whatever. And well, let's call a cat a cat. I'm a bit fat. I'm overweight. And because of that, my insurance company had to raise my premium life insurance when I got my loan for a house by 30%. Now the house is paid. I did my job, and well, as far as I'm talking to you, I'm not yet dead. But basically speaking, my premium was 30% higher for no reason, just because they saw I was a bit fatter than the average normal people, whatever it means. So my probability, and that's all about AI, that's about probability and risk. My probability of dying young or having, diabetes or a heart attack or whatever, a stroke or whatever, is higher. And because it is higher, then of course their risk is higher. And because their risk is higher, my premium is also higher. Is it fair? Well, I leave it to you. Talking about justice and AI, well, basically what happened there was that in America again, some AI system were put in place in order to help the judges in putting their verdict together. And based upon a questionnaire, something like around 200 questions, something like that, that the convict had to fill in before getting to the judge. The AI was giving a scoring, and the scoring was about the probability of recidive. So you committed a crime, you fill the questionnaire, the AI analyzes your answer and, manages with the data and so on and so forth, and it gives you a scoring. You have 50% chance of committing another crime in a near future. Okay. So the story here is about Trisha and Vernon. Trisha is a teenager, well, a little bit difficult teenager, but no big offense. She's kind of a rebel. She's kind of, these kind of, well, difficult to manage teenager, but not much more than this. And at some moment in time, Trisha decides to steal a bike in front of a house to go back home because it's faster. I don't know, was it raining or what? I have no clue, but basically that was her silly decision at the moment. And because of that, she was, pedaling like hell. And then she realizes that, well, maybe this is stupid. So she turn around, come back to the house to bring the bike back, but the police was already caught. So she was caught, red-handed, and she was brought to the judge. About the same period of time, there's another guy, Vernon. He's already committed a couple of crimes. And, this time he's been caught red-handed, and he's also put in front of the judge. So here they are, and this is the profile. So Vernon, prior offense to armed robbery. So this is definitely not the kind of guy that you want to meet for dinner. One attempted armed robbery, and, well, that was it. About Brisha, so 4 juvenile misdemeanors. So basically, I don't know, maybe she tagged the wall or, insulted her head dean or whatever. But that's what it's all about. So that's totally different kind of, range, I would say. And basically, what happened with the AI scoring system, Vernon was a low risk of recidive, about 3 out of 10, and Brisha had a high risk of recidive, 8 out of 10. So Vernon was left alone or released, let's say, on probation, and he committed right after a subsequent offense that was a 1 grand theft. So basically with armed robbery and, these kind of things, because that's not kind of, super friendly pal. And Brisha had to go to jail. They had no probation. There was no possibility for her to pay the fee or whatever. She just had to go to jail, and her life is ruined. And basically, as far as I know, and as far as we know for now, she did not do anything wrong anymore. So what is the trouble? Well, the trouble is that she's black. He's white. So a black woman, a white guy, that made a big difference. And you know what is terrible is that there was nothing in the questionnaire. So these 200 questions, there was absolutely nothing in the questionnaire that was asking about the skin color, because it's illegal in the US, the skin color, or the the kind of money they have, and so on and so forth. But it was basically biased, inferred through the data that were collected through the questionnaire. You might think that this is a good lessons learned and that we would stop with that. Absolutely not. The system is still running. Of course, it's been tuned and fine-tuned and whatever, but it's still running. And even in Europe, Estonia thinks to use that sort of system, of course, with lower level courts. So I would mean, small offenses, but still it is there and it is starting. And if it goes fine with small offenses, I'm pretty sure that it will go higher in court. Another interesting thing is about the feedback loop, and that was called by the police in Chicago. There was a lot of insecurity in Chicago. Well, this is a big American town, so yeah, of course, insecurity is one of the preoccupation. So they ordered a piece of AI that was supposed to act a little bit like Minority Report, if you've seen the movie. Very interesting. Based upon former data, and this was a private training. So basically the data that was used to train the artificial intelligence was only the Chicago police data. So that was their own data. There was nothing about the internet or newspapers or whatever. It was just Chicago police data. So you might think it is reliable, right? And I think it was reliable. Basically, that's not the problem. They used this training data, and the name of the game was based upon the former data, the former crime reports. The AI would tend to predict where the next offense would happen, where the next crime would happen in the coming weeks or months. Interesting, huh? So we have a lot of cases there. There's a probability that, well, you can choose, of course, either you have more crime there or you have less crime and they go somewhere else, right? Well, what happened was that the AI was trained, it worked, and then it was giving some sort of signs to the police where they need to go. Of course, if you know that the crime is going to happen there based upon this brilliant AI system, then what are you going to do? Well, if you are the chief of the police, you're going to send more policemen to the place so that they can code the guys just in action, red-handed, and then bring them to jail. Okay, neat and clean, fair enough. The trouble is, when you send more policemen to a place, these policemen are trained to look around and check for offenses and so on and so forth. And this is exactly what happened. So based on the prediction, they were there in a certain neighborhood and they started to see people tagging a wall, somebody, I don't know, throwing a cigarette on the street, or two people talking too loud and threatening each other. And they started to, of course, record these and act, because they are policemen, this is their job after all, but with the consequence that the number of crimes also raised in this area, making this area even more dangerous. And of course, because it was kind of feedback loop, the more crime you have there, the more probability the AI was telling that the crime would happen there. And of course, more policemen, because you have more policemen, then you have more crimes. And then you understand how it inflates exponentially. The trouble was, of course, that because all police was concentrated on one place, the other place were less safe. And then, of course, you had loads of crime happening there, uncode, because the police was not available in this case. Of course, they realized what was happening. Also, there was a big social bias, because the areas in Chicago, the zones in Chicago where you have poorer people that are, you know, and this is also a bias. We believe that poor people are more prone to commit offenses and so on and so forth, which is not necessarily the case. It all depends. So you have this kind of biases at work. And when they realized that it was completely biased and they were just missing the target and missing the objective, then they stopped the experiment and they dismantled this beautiful AI system. Oh, that other one is also a kind of interesting one. This is in Ningbo, this is in China. And well, it happens that in some city in China, apparently they put camera on the street. This would be totally illegal in Europe, but it's not in China. And they have this face recognition system. So if you cross the zebra path when the traffic light is red for you, for pedestrian, you know, you're just not disciplined enough, then you get your picture displayed on a big screen. And this is exactly what happened to a famous Chinese businesswoman, Mrs. Dong Mingzhu. And she was caught crossing this pedestrian, zebra path when the light was red. So her face was put on the big screen, and of course, it went a bit viral. Look, she's a big CEO in China, very wealthy woman. She does not obey the rules. She does not respect anything, blah, 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 blah. The trouble was that this charming lady was 3,000 kilometers away from the spot she was caught in. And the reason was that she was negotiating a big contract with other guys, so she could easily prove that she was not the person who crossed the street at the time. So what was going wrong? Was it the face recognition system like Amazon or Microsoft? Well, not at all. Actually, her picture was displayed on a bus. And when the red light is for the pedestrian, well, it's a green light for the cars and bus traffic. So the bus was just passing on the zebra pass for sure. And because her photo was there, her picture was, captured by the camera and displayed on the wall, recognized and displayed on the wall. This is another kind of interesting bias and, face control. Of course, she could easily prove. If you cannot prove, then you get the fine. And that's the trouble. This is where it becomes very unfair. One of the big issue in artificial intelligence, and that is a challenge, let's say, for the ones who are going to develop and use them, is called the explainability. And the explainability is, how can you explain the results that you get? You know, that is not more complicated than, well, it's much more complicated, but basically this is what it is. And this is definitely very difficult to explain when AI is behaving weird and having hallucination. I'm the head, as it was said in the introduction, I'm the head of the French board for the ISTQB. So I have the privilege to translate syllabi from English, the original language that the ISTQB uses to develop syllabi, into my local language, that is French. And we are using an AI to help us, and I'm just saying to help us, so we don't fully rely on the AI. There are translation choices, there are, loads of discussions around that, but for, let's say, 80–90% of the job, we are using this translation tool that helps us and gain some time in the translation work. And this translation tool is kind of elaborated because you have the possibility to define your own glossary, and this own glossary is just there to help you decide which translation choices you are going to do. For instance, testing is always translated into test, while it might be suggested as essay or whatever else. But no, we are talking about test, not about essay. So we put this correspondence, testing equals test, in the glossary. And there we had very different translations of the same sentence, whether we activated this glossary or not. Of course, you might say, well, that is normal because, you have the glossary for that reason. Yes, but no, because none of the terms that were there changed in the sentence were linked to any kind of translation choice we put in the glossary. The trouble was even more than what we thought, because both translated sentences, were making a lot of sense. So if you just read the sentence, one or the other, it makes a lot of sense. But the idea behind is quite different. So this is the kind of thing that you might see in an AI. This is some sort of hallucination that you can see in an AI, but this is not as obvious as having 19 fingers in one hand, you know? This is the kind of subtle difference that you need to track with the right level of expertise and attention. And that makes the whole difference. And that is a very, very big challenge. How can you explain that? I have absolutely no idea, because it has nothing to do with the translation choices that we had. So it's not us who introduced the bias. It's somewhere in the system, you get something that goes completely weird. And it happens more and more when you have complete bits of a sentence that are just added randomly and you don't even know why. And it makes a certain sense, but not in the context that we're working with. So you need to be very, very careful with that. Okay, you might think about, getting rid of bias, and there's the trouble of responsibility. I think that there was a question already from the audience about who is responsible for blah, blah, blah. And one of the big way that we believe in Europe is going to solve the problem is to legislate. You know, you put some laws, you put a nice legal frame all around the stuff, and you believe that the problem is solved. But that's actually not really the case. And not only is it blocking and sometimes unrealistic and sometimes blocking the progress of AI per se, but also legislation heavily depends on where you are in the world. I mean, again, the culture and the laws in the US are not the same as in Europe, are not the same as in China, just to name these big countries that are, or these big group of countries that are, heavily investing in AI. So for instance, the European law well, the French law and the Belgian law are totally different in structure and in the way of bringing the proof than the Anglo-Saxon system, for instance. And of course, Russia and China have different opinions about these things as well. As an example, as I told you, in China, it is perfectly legal to have this camera, checking your face and just recognizing your face and on the screen. In Europe, it would be totally forbidden for sure. So legislation is fine, but it's only fine if we have a global view, because otherwise we have AI with different kind of systems coming from different kind of countries, and we have, some sort of, blocking issues there, right? Another one.
I remember well your first visit to Capitol Hill back in 2010. You spoke to the Senate Republican High-Tech Task Force, which I chair. You said back then that Facebook would always be free. Is that still your objective?
Senator, yes, there will always be a version of Facebook that is free. It is our mission to try to help connect everyone around the world and to bring the world closer together. In order to do that, we believe that we need to offer a service that everyone can afford, and we're committed to doing that.
Well, if so, how do you sustain a business model in which users don't pay for your service?
Senator, we run ads.
Look at his face. Look at his face.
That's it.
It's absolutely fantastic. You realize, and he realizes at this moment in time, Mark Zuckerberg realizes at this moment in time that this senator does not understand anything even about a business model of Facebook. So we have extremely complex system with kind of, complex business models here and there. And politicians are definitely not ITers, and for most of them are definitely not trained in understanding what is going on. Of course, they have some advisor. Of course, there's a lot of lobbying turning around and so on and so forth, whatever direction they are turning around, by the way. But this is the trouble. Legislation and laws are fine, but the technology moves ahead way faster. So it's very difficult to catch up. And it's also very difficult to find the right cursor, put the cursor on the right place so that you don't block progress forever, and also you make sure that you legislate on the right stuff as well. Hunting bias is not something easy. Basically, you need to know where to look. There are, of course, some things that are kind of hints or helpers. This is what I call here the classic. That's about gender, that's about skin color, that's about this LGBTQ community that is feeling offended, right or wrong. I'm not going to discuss that here, but and are of course subject to loads of biases. This is the health kind of things, disabled people versus not disabled people. You have neuroatypical versus neurotypical kind of guys. You have poor and rich people, and all the kind of stereotypes and kind of biases that we can already introduce consciously or unconsciously. And this is where we need to look at. We need to be aware that these biases happen. We need to be aware that they have an impact, and this is where we should look at or look for. Of course, we are testers, so we need to be creative, twisted, or critical. And maybe we'll have the possibility to discuss about that in the question. But these classics are known, so people that are developing AI system and are willing to sell these AI system one way or the other, because there's a big business model, costs a lot of money to maintain and develop these kind of systems. So basically, there's money involved, and not small money, to be sure. Well, these guys need to be prudent and need to understand that these biases are there and try to limit them one way or the other, sometimes getting way too far, and because trying to correct a bias is sometimes making worse than the bias itself, because it just moves the thing, shifts the thing totally on the opposite direction. Of course, you have these model forced results. When you and this is about the model up front, or the problem up front, the requirement up front. If you already put your credo, if you already put your beliefs into the model and want to match the real world with your kind of opinion, then of course you will introduce that kind of bias, because I'm sorry, but as good as you are, the world is definitely different than what you think it is, including myself, of course. Bad news there is that in most cases, biases are often discovered too late. That's about the probability of detection. I've shown you this example with the translation software. Very difficult to detect because the sentence makes sense. It's not completely weird. Even in context, it does make sense. So somebody reads it, okay, that works. But actually, this is not exactly the meaning. And this is completely different from what was meant in the origin. Very hard to detect. If you have a picture where somebody has 19 fingers on one hand, that is very easy to detect. You see that there's something wrong. You see that the movement in the video is not okay. You see that the shadow is not okay. Well, these are the kind of things that we can spot easily, but sometimes it's much more subtle, and this is where it hurts. As I said, the cure is sometimes worse than the disease, and maybe we'll have the possibility to discuss a little bit about this Gemini kind of stuff, where you have female Pope or black Vikings, for instance. Well, yeah, I can understand that we need to recognize each other and then have more inclusivity, but at a certain moment in time, there are solid facts like history, and yeah, I can understand that there was at least one black samurai that is known. It's going to come in the Assassin's Creed franchise, but it's not that all samurai are black. I'm sorry to say, I would maybe love to see that or not, but yeah, it's not. And the thing is that the backlash is sometimes and very often actually minimum, because, well, what you get when the AI system doesn't work is that, well, we discontinue the experiment. Well, maybe you have some kind of penalties, but not really. It's just that we stop the contract. But the people who have been hurt are mostly left alone. And that happened a lot of time. You have this AI system who led to, if you read the book Weapons of Mass Destruction, you would see that the American education system, loads of educators and teachers were just fired because they were classified as bad performing people. And it was for the wrong reason, and it was from the wrong kind of data, some sort of way, or biased data, some sort of way. But they were never explained why. They were never given their job back, because per se these algorithms are secret, and are inherently secret and bound to remain so. Because as soon as you give the full clarity and the full transparency on how the system is running, then you give anyone the opportunity to tamper with the system. And that was a little bit what happened with Thai. No, there was absolutely no barrier, no limit. It was just they're genuinely naive and willing to interact with the Twitter sphere. And hey guys, hello, I'm a robot. I want to learn how you work. And then of course you find these bunch of trolls, and they just want to tamper with the system. They just want to mock at the system, or they just want to play and have fun with the system. And you come to disastrous conclusions. So you have to protect one way or the other the system, especially when it comes to banking, scoring, and these kind of things. Because if you know what to answer up front, then of course nobody will have extra premium or whatever. And for justice as well, if you know what to answer these formulaire, then of course, you will fill in the form in a proper way so that you get, the recidivist scoring as low as possible. On the other side, when you get this kind of high score and you're not explained why, and it's unfair, then the problem starts. So to conclude this part of the talk, confusing machine learning is not that difficult, and still not today. Though they're spending enormous effort in order to shield and protect their technology, because again there's big money involved. So please check your data and make sure and understand that you can move very easily from beauty to horror in just a blink of an eye. And this one that looks like a absolutely fantastic picture, I would just ask you to close your eyes halfway, just like blinking, but not completely, and then you will see what I'm talking about. and it's very easy to drift and to slip away from the initial objective. Just a couple of words before I leave the floor back to Exactpro and having the question round. If you want to know more about artificial intelligence, there's a syllabus that has been issued by the ISTQB. Well, after all, I'm the vice president, so this is my advertisement time, I would say. Though this is for free, so you can download it for free and get the know-how of the syllabus for free. That is essentially dealing with testing AI. There's a lot of notions that are explained there. It's, in my humble opinion, very, very well done. You understand some current state and expected trend of AI. Of course, like all ISTQB syllabi, it's not meant to be the end. It's meant to be the starting point. It's meant to be the basis that you can climb, on to get more knowledge and to get interested in more knowledge for sure. That's about experiencing the implementation and testing of machine learning models and see where the testers can be at hand. Understand some challenges, transparency, explainability, and non-determinism. Contribute to the test strategy, execute test case for AI-based systems, and so on and so forth. This is the kind of catalog of learning objectives and knowledge that you would acquire taking this. And there you have some kind of testing methods like pairwise testing, A/B testing, back-to-back, and so on and so forth. Also, brand new tools that are happening here. A4Q, that is one of our partner, is now helping you with these kind of AI tool where you can train yourself on ISTQB exams and also complement your knowledge on a practical basis on top of the foundation level exams. For those of you who are also interested in getting some feedback apart from the books that you got before, you have this very, very interesting topics on YouTube. I recommend you to have a look at that, especially the Alan Burton one, the Wizard of AI, explaining why this self-feeding loop is bringing problem into the AI systems. And also a couple of talks. This is one example, but there are many more from Sabine Hosenfelder. Sorry, that is actually a kind of quantum mechanism scientist, but having some kind of topics around AI these days. Yeah. And this article that is also quite interesting. This is university paper. And that's about how the diversity of AI systems varies over time and basically declines over time due to this self-feeding loop. So I'm getting to the end of my talk. I hope that you enjoyed it. These are my details, so if you want to get in touch with me, definitely do not hesitate. I always reply. I'm not promising that it will be within 48 hours, but definitely if you link with me or ask me a question or whatever, I commit to reply to you. And this is it. I think that I'm going to stop sharing now and leave the floor to our host from Exactpro.
Thank you, Oliver. Thank you very much. The presentation was really great, and I enjoyed the examples that you made, specifically about Tinder. It's a very sad story, but just to before we slowly moving to the question part. And by the way, everyone who's listening and want to ask a question, please submit your questions via LinkedIn chat. But at the moment, I'll start with the one. Just we will catch up with all the things that you said because I'm very interested in AI testing syllabus as well. But let's start with the biases that you've shared just right now, and I have one related to the responsibility side. So you said that legislation is like going to be in place soon, right? But all these examples that you mentioned with Tinder, Brisha and Werner, police examples and everything, that that led to really negative outcomes in a real life world, and somebody should take the responsibility in terms of the technical part. Legislation is I understand, so, but who is taking responsibility within the tool that has been used at that moment? Is it company? Is it data scientists, developers, QAs, or
none of them?
Anyone else?
None of them, actually, and that's a little bit the problem. Everyone is responsible, but nobody endorses this responsibility. All in all, let me just give you an example. And well, first, back to the legislation. It is there. You have some sort of frame that has been set up by Europe. So you have this AI Protection Act, or whatever it is called. It is downloadable. There's a big paper. That is all right, but this is, from a certain perspective, it's too much, and from another perspective, it's not enough. Let's come back now to the responsibility. Let me give you a very simple example. You know that you have cars like Tesla. We're moving slowly but surely with to electric cars at the time, and to autonomous car as well. There's more and more electronic within our cars, and cars become autonomous. There are millions of kilometers already driven by cars like Tesla and Google cars in the US. So we have this kind of autonomous car system. Now let's take an example. You are somewhere in this autonomous car, and you're not driving per se. You're just sitting there on your seat and reading a newspaper or whatever, and you just said to the car, drive me to the work. The work has been stored in the memory of the car. So they calculate the itinerary, and you go to the work. At a certain moment in time, you have unexpected event happening. By unexpected event, I mean you have, let's say, a child crossing the road. Okay. The trouble is that if the sensors just see the kid too late, and it can perfectly happen because it's totally, unexpected. At a certain moment in time, you don't know why, boom, crosses the street, okay? You're driving, let's say, 60 kilometers an hour. So it takes a certain distance to stop the car, and the kid is just in front. So you have no possibility to stop the car on time. Even if you brake, even if you have super brakes, even if you have these kind of reverse throttle on the reactors, and whatever happens, physics is there. You need to crash the boy or the child. You have the possibility, of course, and I'm not getting into the trolley principle, but you have the possibility to go to the other car facing you, or you have the possibility to crash to the wall. No, you just, hit the boy. Who is responsible? And that is the right question, because you're not driving. You're not touching the wheel. You're not touching the pedal. You're not putting the brake system in operation. You're not just doing nothing. Is it Tesla, the car? Is it physics? Well, who is physics? Is it the engineers that built some sort of way the AI system? Is it the ones who build the sensor? Is it the one who designed the whole damn stuff and put them together? Is it who? Well, it's actually nobody but you. From an insurance company perspective, you are the driver. Yeah, but I'm not touching the wheel. You are the driver. You are the one who is taking the license. So because you are the driver, you are ultimately responsible. And by responsible, I mean liable. Responsible before law, liable. You are liable, and you will be charged and prosecuted. As simple as that. This is today the way we see will it change? Maybe yes, maybe no. I have my serious doubts about this changing, but this is the situation as it is today, which makes me say, I love AI. I love the capability of all these electronic devices in my car, because I have not autonomous, but I have a car that is also full of electronics. I love them, but I'm still the guy in charge. So I want to drive myself.
Yes.
And now if we come to the other system that you mentioned, that are systems that are used by law, that are systems that are used in the education system in the US, and so on and so forth, the responsibility or the liability, as far as I know today, has never been put against these companies, the one who developed the AI and the one who somewhere, and unknowingly mostly, injected the bias in the system. So because of the fact that this is some kind of company secret, because the fact that this shall not be put in the open with the public and so on and so forth, and because people don't like to make big scandals and so on and so forth, it always came to the conclusion that, yeah, sorry, maybe it wasn't fair, but I've never seen these kind of trials that really led to a big win for the victims, all in all. It will maybe change. Our society is changing, so I don't know what the world will be tomorrow, but at this moment in time, well, it's not getting in that sort of direction.
Thank you very much. Yes, probably I would agree with that. Regarding the biases, you mentioned that that's usually all these biases are visible very late. It's
Yes.
when it already impacts something, right? But is there any way how to detect it earlier or prevent it in any way? You've been telling us that the training data is the key here.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate on that? What else can be done in order to try to prevent?
Oh, I think that you need to exercise the system. One of the trouble with AI is that this explainability stuff. So you never know when and why at a certain moment in time the system will hallucinate. What is very sure at the time is that most of the system, is not all the system, at a certain moment in time are drifting and giving you these kind of, crazy sort of results. Why is it so? Hard to say. Is it about the training data? Not always. There are ways to, introduce these biases, and also the feedback loop. If the system is directly connected to a feedback loop, like Ty was, then of course you're modifying the training data some sort of way. The system self-trains and learns from past mistakes, or try to refine the results so that you get, more or less what you want in a better way, which is not always optimum. And exercising the system is definitely key, and being extremely creative and really being the devil's advocate would probably help in identifying data. For instance, let me give you two examples in there. There is this example from Google AI that was at a certain moment in time giving female Pope and black Vikings. I just gave the example in the talk. I think that this is one of the way that Google tried to correct some sort of bias they had in the past. Google has a long history. Of course, they have immense amount of data, trillions and trillions of data here and there, our data, of course, because we're using the service and so on and so forth. So they have an immense data set that they can use to train and to refine whatever system they have. But they were not exempt of biases in the past. I ran a conference. That was my first one about AI when I started to think about AI and getting a certain interest in AI at the time. And I was giving that in a Chinese conference. And before the Chinese conference, I was explaining about these biases, and I just typed two words. It was CEO and it was dealer. And I've been to Google Image, so the page where Google displays all the image. At the time, there was not even an AI saying this is open source, whatever. This is just a rough image from all over the web. And the first page from CEO, they were old white guys, 85%. There were maybe one African, two Asian, and let's say two ladies, all in all. The full page was old white guys, and with the exception here and there. And I just sat in front of the audience. I had 600 people in front of me, and I just said, well, I suppose there's no CEO in China, right? Everyone was loafing, a little bit, awkward. That was it. Okay. Then I typed dealer, and dealer was black people, young black people with this kind of hoodie and so on and so forth. Well, I guess that this might be a profile for a dealer, maybe in some Hollywood movies, but not all the dealers are like that, I guess. And they're not all black, you know, there are dealers from everywhere in the world. So basically, Google was already struggling with these kind of things. And there was a person there, an Ethiopian lady called Timnit Gebru, and she was their chief ethic officer. And she was really, really working hard because she also been harassed and then, you know, had some kind of bullied and so on and so forth. And she worked very hard in trying to get this Google algorithm better in sorting these sort of problems. And at a certain moment in time, she wanted to publish a paper, and then Google stopped the collaboration. Of course, if you hear Google's version, she resigned. If you hear Timnit Gebru version, she was fired. I don't know, I wasn't there. I have no, well, I have an opinion, but I'm not going to share it here because it's useless in any case, because it has no more value than any other opinion. But basically speaking, that was it. They stopped the collaboration, and she was very angry about it. So I suppose that they learned a little bit from these mistakes they made in the past and tried to correct the bias by introducing more diversity and inclusivity in their algorithm. But of course, the trouble is that inclusivity is fine, and I have absolutely no trouble with that at all. But there are limits to inclusivity because, as far as I know, apart from a very, very far away in the history where it was expected that we had one female pope, this is not the common rule, and definitely not is this female pool is black. And a black Viking, well, I'm sorry, these guys are called Norsemen, right? So maybe they didn't have horns on their helmets, like we like to represent them in Hollywood movies again, but they were not black. Definitely, they were not black. So I'm happy to have these black actors everywhere in the game. No trouble at all. They deserve their spot, but not as a Viking. I'm sorry. I have some sort of trouble there.
Yeah, Gemini, Google AI had a great scandal. Yosef, do you have any questions related to that? I think you do.
Yes. So my first question is that if you look for AI safety materials or AI bias materials, there will be quite a lot of training courses specifically from Google and Microsoft.
Yep.
So my question is, what software testers in Google were thinking when they were rolling out a 60 billion loss in market capitalization disaster into production? So no one there saw the implication of using additional data in the prompts that resulted in this outcome. So how do you train software testers to be blind to such a degree?
Are they blind, or are they just biased on their own, or are just they, you know, software testing is a difficult business. You're always, you know, the very last actor in the game. This is highly technical. There's not actually, the difficulty is that there's not much to test, or there's not it's not easy to test. Testing the training data, well, you can challenge the training data up front, testing the algorithm, the parameters. You can do something here and there, but you need to be very careful with what you do. You have to be very also very technical and understand what is going on there. So that's not the typical kind of testing activities. Of course, we can use some testing techniques that are, well, for some of them described in that ISTQB syllabus and other courses for sure. But this is not easy. Let me just give you another example where this is kind of difficult. If you take Midjourney, for instance, and you ask Midjourney, maybe it is still there because it made a lot of noise at the time as well. If you type some kind of prompts on Midjourney, you have some sort of mostly gender-friendly kind of stuff, and not too biased. But when you come to some specific categories, then you can easily find some biases. The example was autist Asperger. Give me a picture, and the guy who tried that is, yeah, a guy of an autistic profile. Well, and he just said, okay, what is the representation of an autistic Asperger profile on Midjourney? And guess what? You have 85, if not 90% of people that were red hair, young people, and with a very sad face. I can tell you, I know a lot of autistic profiles, and my daughter is one of them. Well, first of all, that's a she, so that's not a boy. She has no red hair because there's no red hair in the family. Nothing against the red hair, but this is not. And she's happy. She's the kind of happy girl. And yeah, most of the time she's smiling and she's happy. So this is, again, the kind of biased stereotype. How can you find that as a tester? I don't know. I don't know. You need to be, that's what I said, it's very difficult to find. And you have to be extremely creative and see, okay, who can be offended, who can be mistreated, who can be treated unfair in this society, and try to exercise the AI and see if the results are indeed kind of representing the world or not representing the world. And now that you have that, what do you do? Because you can perfectly say, okay, I have a overrepresentation of red hair sad boys in my autistic result. How can you correct that? Well, you would put probably loads of autistic profiles that are girls and smiling and happy, but then you might induce another bias by trying to correct one. And then you come to this kind of Gemini issue where you have a female pope because, oh, how smart, putting more female people at work. It's brilliant. Yes, it is brilliant, but it's not open for each and every category.
Thank you, Olivier. Yes, if you had the second question, or I should continue.
I have a number of questions. So
All right.
I just to, before you go, this example with Gemini it looks like a great example with which might be the part of the syllabus probably, or some description related to biases. Would you consider, because as of now we've been looking through the EI testing syllabus for several years already, and we have not noticed any bias related topics.
That's true. There's a small part that is dealing with that, but it's not the biggest part. And
Yeah.
What can I say about the AI syllabus? Well, first of all, the AI syllabus is going to be reviewed at a time by the core working group. So the people who built and designed the first syllabus are reviewing the syllabus and updating the content because the technology is evolving. Not everything is evolving at the same pace, and there are things that are okay for long. Let's say that A/B testing, for instance, will not change one day after the other. But the technology and the kind of approaches that are described in the syllabus evolve more or less and needs to be revamped and reviewed a little bit. This process is currently at work, so we will have a new version of the syllabus. When exactly, depending on how fast they can advance and so on and so forth, but basically this is work in progress. What is essentially missing, in my humble opinion, in this syllabus is more the approach of testing with AI, because the syllabus is heavily focusing on testing AI and explaining AI and how it works, and then some test techniques that you can put at work. There's a little bit about testing with AI, but it's more a description. And I believe, because I see the trend today, that loads of tools are now incorporating AI parts in their code, if I can tell it that way, which aim to help testers in doing their daily job. So that's testing with AI, and this part is heavily missing, in my humble opinion, in the current syllabus. We're dealing with that. We're trying to make some amendments in there and get something. There's not much about prompting techniques, which is becoming absolutely key today in generating whatever sort of contents you need to generate with AI, whether it is test resources like a test design or code even, and so on and so forth. This is also that part is also missing, and we try to address it one way or the other.
Thank
And
you.
now with regards to the bias, we have a little piece. Trouble with that is that okay, that's good to know that there are biases. That's good to know eventually that you can identify biases. But as I said, it's very fine. It's very difficult to find, and it's very difficult to correct as well. So I guess this is one of the reasons why we did not put so much emphasis in this part.
Yeah.
Well, our concern that the previous version of the syllabus, the one that was under A4Q umbrella, the previous one, contained quite substantial section on bias variance trade-offs.
It's true.
And the ISTQB official version 1.0, this is no longer included. And
That's
it
true.
creates incorrect perception across software testers that it is possible to fight biases and that there are no trade-offs in this process. So if we are decreasing bias, we at the same time also decreasing the accuracy of algorithm. If we are decreasing bias for specific protected categories or groups, we are very likely increase it for other groups, etc. And by removing the idea of trade-offs, we give incorrect impression to software testers on what is easy and what is hard.
Yeah, I understand. I understand your point. You need to know actually that this AI syllabus is not only based on this previous A4Q. So A4Q was one of the source, but actually what happened was that we were dealing with 4 candidates, syllabi candidates at the same time. So we had one that was coming from the Chinese board together with the Korean board. So they built, well, first of all, they had their own syllabus, then they built it together, and they came to the GA with one proposal. There was already this A4Q syllabus that was on the run, and there was another one that was Artificial Intelligence United from another provider that was also in the ISTQB ecosystem. And well, at the time, to tell you a little bit the story behind the curtain, I was president of the ISTQB, and for many reasons, and also because we wanted to reach as many people as possible and making people as happy as possible, we decided to have some sort of alliance with these 4 syllabi all together and creating this AI working group together. So there are, of course, some kind of trade-off and compromise here and there. Some were more oriented with, these kind of notions as biases and so on and so forth. Some were dealing with other kind of interest within the AI field. And at a certain moment in time, they had to come to a common agreement. And this is the ISTQB syllabus. So yeah, that's the story behind. Everyone had to add some part compared to their previous syllabus. We could not, and also there's another how to say it, consideration to take into account. We cannot, because this is a specialist kind of syllabus, we cannot have something that is so comprehensive that it takes more than, because people cannot, accommodate very easily with a large syllabi these days. It's harder to sell. It's harder to give, and well, basically, we have this rule that says, well, it needs to fit within 2 days if it's specialized syllabus.
If we say about syllabus and related to software testing and biases, if to combine these 2 topics, probably there should be described whether software testers supposed to be biased towards criticizing software while it's while during testing or not. What do you think?
Unfortunately, we are. We are all biased. We all have our vision of the world, and we are all, you know. Let me just.
Software testing companies are always biased. That's right.
No, as human beings, we are. Let's say, you know, we live together, but actually we think that we are extremely inclusive and seeing loads of people and so on and so forth. But basically speaking, when you look at your friends, when you look at your relatives, when you look at the people you you hang around with, these are people like you. Whoever you are, whatever you think, these are people like you. You have the same sort of opinion. Of course, you don't agree on everything. That's all right. And that's the same with a couple. That's the same with your children, whatever. We don't agree on absolutely everything, but we have that common basis, you know, that makes us alike. And we like to be with the same sort of people. Well, I'm not hanging around with people that are multi-billionaire because I cannot have this kind of lifestyle because I don't have enough money to live with these kind of people. But on the other side, I'm not living with the people in the you know, living in a slug in South Africa because I'm healthier than that actually. And yeah, I have not much to share some sort of way. Well, I have my humanity to share with them and support or whatever. But I mean, we don't live in the same neighborhood, we don't live in the same area, and we don't see the same people. So we already have this sort of bias. And with these biases, we have this kind of, you know, how to say that, way of thinking about the other, you know, these, I'm looking for the correct word now, well, whatever, you'll get the idea. We tend to assimilate some you know, characteristics with other, and this is also a bias. This is the way we represent the world. And the way we represent the world is depending on where you live, that's depending on your condition, that's depending on your social background, that's depending on your money background, and so on and so forth. The way I see the world is not the way I guess a guy that lives in Kenya sees the world, most probably, because we don't have the same kind of culture, we don't have the kind of background, maybe not the same kind of money, maybe he's richer, maybe he's poorer, I don't know, but we have different kind of visions. And that's the same with that's the same with America. This is the same with China. This is the same everywhere. And even in our own country, we have these bias layers, you know, these kind of, yeah. So
yes,
yes,
sure. When we talk about people, that's pretty understandable. Yes, we're all different, and we're assimilating, and we're getting new skills and so on and attitudes. But when it comes to testing, and you said that this syllabus is lacking of AI-enabled test tools, right? Should these test tools also be biased, or we should leave them like plain? I would say. What do you think?
They are biased all the same. I mean, these tools are AI systems, so you will have hallucinations, you will have strange results, you will have all the kind of problems that you have with the normal AIs, normal between pros. These are AI systems, and they are based on the same kind of AI systems mostly. So if you type in ChatGPT, please write me a test case on equivalence partitioning with this and this and this and this, and you give them the boundary value or whatever, well, you get something that is 85 to 95% correct. But at a certain moment in time, I was trying it. Well, it was on previous version of ChatGPT. I have to check if it's still the case with the version 4. But whatever. I was getting train tickets. You know, it was just the normal example that you get for equivalence partitioning and boundary value analysis in the foundation level syllabus. You sell train tickets, you have a reduction for certain age categories, and then they get reduction, and the other ones pay the full price. As easy as that. And you have the boundaries. If you're over 25, you pay the full price. Under 25, you're a student, you get a reduction. And over 60, you're elderly people, and you get a reduction as well. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Very classic example. And at a certain moment in time, ChatGPT was writing the test case for me. And it was all right. It was extremely good, motivation, everything was there. So I could just copy, paste, my test case is done. Trouble was that at a certain moment in time, I got a recommendation, and please make sure that the train ticket does not get a negative value. But how the heck do you want to have a train ticket with a negative value? Who is ever going to put a negative value on a train ticket? There's no possibility ever that somebody puts, oh, and you will pay, oh, we will pay you 20 euros just for you to come to the train. There's no point, but it was there. Why is it there? I have no clue. I also played, these kind of logic problems with ChatGPT, and it was absolutely funny because, and you see that the data is well, it's not from Google because ChatGPT didn't know me. So if you Google me, you have some results. So basically, they did not use Google, which is wise because that's competition. But their data is using, I would say people's value, popular data, people data. I don't know how to formulate this correctly, but when you ask them, okay, you buy a sandwich and a coffee, and the coffee is 50 cents more than blah blah blah, most of the people fall in the trap, and they just make the subtraction and they say, oh, this is that, and then when you make the addition, oh no, it's not 50%, it's not 50 cents more. It doesn't work. And most of the people fall in that trap. That's a very easy logic problem. Everyone falls in the trap at a certain moment in time, and then you learn. And it was the case. And then I said, well, put yourself in the capacity of a math teacher and please show me the resolution of the problem, blah, blah. And then he put the equation, and the answer was right. So you see, that's a little bit the fun of it. When you ask a silly question like, okay, there's a plane crash and it's between, I don't know, what is the country next to Georgia? Armenia, is it close to you?
Yes,
It is.
probably.
It is. So let's say that the plane, yeah, I thought it was, but I needed to make sure and not make a fool of myself. Well, halfway, yeah, I was not sure, so I'm a half fool. So the plane crashes at the border between Armenia and Georgia. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, where do you bury the survivors? Well, you don't bury the survivors, they survive. Why the heck do you want to bury the survivors? And then ChatGPT explains to you with all legal text and so on and so forth that it depends on, no, it doesn't depend. You don't bury them. Maybe later you will bury them, but not now. And definitely not in that case. So, I mean, that's the kind of, trap that we human beings always or often fall into. And ChatGPT is just reflecting that. So if you put now that in back to your question in the context of a tool that is helping you to do something in testing with AI, you will have exactly the same sort of problem. My translation tool is a professional translation tool. It is a good tool, but sometimes you have this sort of weird result. You have this sort of unexplained result, and this kind of hallucination, whatever it is. And you need to be very careful. My message here is that please be careful with AI. That's a wonderful tool. It can do a lot for you, whether it is to develop something or test something or whatever, and it will come and it will grow. There's absolutely no point around that. But please be the expert and make sure that you don't accept it blindly and fly blind with AI, because that would be the worst mistake ever.
Yes, sure, that's true. Yes, if do you have any questions, or should we look in the chat?
I do have. Well, so this example is used rather frequently about compass system. So we had to review it before this session. And in fact, there are studies available that refute the claims made in ProPublica research. So in particular, there are a number of points that were incorrectly performed by ProPublica research. In particular, they merged medium risk and high risk categories together in order to torture data and get the result that they needed. And even Wikipedia contains now a link that goes into the study that refutes ProPublica research. But my question more is when we are preparing syllabus for software testers, especially foundation level. So when we are not able to dig deep into every particular topic, how to make sure that we are not presenting only one side of the argument for such complex issues?
Oh, well, the only answer I can give you, and I'm not saying that we are 100% bulletproof, but the only answer I can give you is that there is a group of people that are international. So there's definitely from just the top of my mind, there's our president, Claudia Dudzer-Sieger. So she's a German lady, also very much interested into AI. You have a representative for AFQ. You have a representative also a German guy, but different perspective. You have a representative for Artificial Intelligence United. Then you had two guys. You had a Canadian guy and you have an Indian guy. Also very much deep into the artificial intelligence. The Indian guy, that's Vipul Kosher, that is also very well known in the conference sector and very well known for this his work in the university on AI. Is more on the practical side and on the totally different culture, totally different approach. And then you have Korean and Chinese representatives that were there as well, with expert people like Stuart Reid from China. I can't remember who was there. It was Chink, if I'm not mistaken, whatever, from Chinese university. So these guys are from different perspectives. You have people from industrial side, you have people from universities, you have people from different cultures and different approaches and different kind of, context. So this is already something that's, as the syllabus is made as a compromise, as I said, this is already something that some sort of guarantees better than just having one single writer putting the whole stuff together. And maybe if you have one super expert writing the whole stuff together, you will have a crispier syllabus, but only with one single perspective. So potentially more biased and potentially misleading more, because nobody knows where the future leads. And these guys were pretty well aware up front that they will have to revise the syllabus after 1 or 2 years, and this is what they're doing exactly. So so that's my answer. We try really our best to make sure that we are, and that's more general than AI, by the way, because this is a criticism that we always have, or we often have from ISTQB perspective. Yeah, your syllabus, I can write a much better syllabus on my own. Yeah, maybe you're right. And I have no trouble with that. I have no trouble with that. And I'm pretty sure that your syllabus will be extremely good, but for your audience, for your country, and for your context, because our syllabi are made international and have been reviewed by 69 different boards, different approaches, different contexts, different economy, different levels of maturity with regards to testing. Yeah, I mean, our syllabi are made to be acceptable in Japan, in China, in the US, in Russia, in Europe, in Africa, everywhere in the world. And of course, this is getting to a couple of compromises, but this is what makes them richer than just writing my own syllabus, which is the best in the world. Yeah, but it only fits for me,
Yes, I understand how complex this process, in particular, the survey from 2018 foundation level, I believe it was very mature, and it is very difficult to introduce changes into it because the product already included quite a lot of compromises, and we used it for training for many years, and in particular, everyone is aware of early testing saves time and cost. So my question is the following. Another example you gave us during your presentation is Microsoft Typebot that was shut down in 2016.
Yeah.
Because no conversation about AI should go without, I would say, existential threat. So 8 years ago, we had ability to test something AI-based that when it is exposed to the public, behaves in the way that we believe is undesirable.
Yes.
By shutting down early testing 8 years ago, would it be fair to say that humanity lost with 8 years of preparing for any, I would say, adversarial effects from AI and through it communication with, I would say, ill-willed actors? So trolls trolls are not extinct after 8 years, so they are all over the place still.
Yeah.
And we wasted these 8 years by not having crowdsourcing for AI system.
That's a very interesting question, actually. That's yeah, that's there's no easy answer to that one. Well, first of all, they did not stop because they still have their AI system, so they did not stop the research and development. So I guess they are more ready, but they were totally unprepared. They could not anticipate, and I think it was naive on their side. They could not anticipate that it would go so bad after such a small amount of time. But if you think about it, that's not only this Thai stuff. It's the generic question about all social interaction, and I'm talking about social media here. If you go to Twitter, if you go to Facebook, if you go to LinkedIn, even now at a certain moment in time, or other social media, you have these kind of trolls being there and putting all their messages of hate or whatever they are doing, sometimes completely silly and just for free, just because they can, and just because they think they are untouchable. And this is a part of human nature and a part of human behavior, whether we like it or not. There are some people like that. There are some people who refrain, who try to be as benevolent as possible and try to understand the other one viewpoint and try to moderate a little bit. And sometimes, well, we just react, very, very harsh and very blunt and very silly, and we just put whatever kind of hate comments we like. This is a component that we need to integrate. Whether Microsoft has lost this time, I'm not sure. I think that they were totally unprepared and they needed to shut it down because it was hitting more than just having these hate comments. Of course, it only involves the people who put the comments in there if you come back to that. But basically it hits the image because Microsoft's robot, chatbot, was giving terrible messages to the world. And from a very high-tech kind of company like Microsoft is, whether we like to call them high-tech or not, well, they are certainly an actor that comes in IT today. It's not very profitable. It's not very desirable to have a chatbot just showing these kind of hurts at the face of each and every one. So they had to shut it down just for a matter of image, just for a matter of possible liability. Now, by that time, laws evolved as well. Now you can put all kind of hate comments on social media. If somebody complains, if you're tracked down and you're identified, then you can be sued and you can be having to pay some fines or even go to jail in some countries, or in some specific cases if you're harassing somebody or something, bullying or whatever. These kind of things can lead to much more severe consequences than it used to have. 8 years ago. So yeah, whether they should have closed it, yes, I think they did the right thing because it damages their image too much. But now, of course, whether they train behind, I hope they did. But you're absolutely right. And it's the same like with hacking and these kind of things, these guys evolve, they know how to go around because that's human creativity, and that's also something that is very interesting to watch and to track down. That's how people can just, you know, go around, you know, the laws and go around the limits so that they can break the system, or they can break whatever they want. And the more you get pressure from the system, I mean, the state and whatever, the more pressure you get, the more creative you are, because it's a matter of life. If you see how some guys in very strict countries, you know, just manage to circle around and put messages and then, you know, transfer information to the other side of the world, defeating all kind of low systems, all kind of blocks that they could have put in their way. I think this is maybe the good side of it, but it's also telling a lot about, yeah, how creative we are. So yeah, I understand the question. I think it's a very good question and a very difficult one. Actually, I think my personal opinion, they did the right stuff, but yes, things evolve and they're still there and they're still aligning. Well, if you look at how many people believe that the Earth is flat, well, sorry if there are flat earthers in the audience today. I'm sorry, I'm not with you guys. Well, it tells something about humanity, right?
Yes, right. Thank you very much, Oliver. Thank you, Josef, for the question. It was really great. I think we are right. We are late for 20 minutes already, so I believe that we can skip the part with the questions in the chat, but we'll promise to everyone who asked the question to address the question within the chat. Would it be possible, Oliver?
Oh, you give me homework. That is what I need to understand now. Yes.
Yes, yes. Just a few questions left there that we have not
Sure.
addressed. Some of them
Sure,
we already
sure.
addressed, so
Sure.
we are pretty fine there.
Forward back
So
to me. Yeah.
before wrapping up, Olivier, I want to say thank you much for the session. It was a joy to talking to you today. A real pleasure. Thank you.
All the pleasure is mine, guys. It was very interesting, very good questions. I hope you liked it. I hope the audience liked it. Any question, any remark, please relay to me.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thanks for everyone for joining this session today. And I'm happy to announce the next webinar taking place on 9th of July, where we are going to discuss future of software quality with software testing expert and agile quality coach, Richard Seidel. And if you're interested in a small advertisement here, if you're interested in leveling up your career and discovering ways to leverage the power of AI tools, check out our website to learn more about the award-winning ISTQB accredited AI testing course. You can just check the first chapter for free by subscribing for 1 week trial. So stay tuned and follow our LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube channels. And I hope to see you everyone again in the next episode of AI Testing Talks. Thank you very much. Bye.